Welcome back everyone, RacerX here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about my Demon 170 and how it compares to my old Hellcat. That car was a 2016, very fast, very consistent car. A lot of people want to know, was the Hellcat actually the better car to own, or do you really like the 170 better? Today I will give you my thoughts. We'll talk about the comparison between the two. It should be a fun one. If you guys are brand new to my channel, don't forget, please hit subscribe. That button is right over there, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Today's video is being sponsored by my partners at LASFIT. I have a really neat little product here. This is actually something I use every single time I go to the track, and it comes in very, very handy. Let me show you. Everything fits really nice and easy in this little bitty case. I love it. It's portable and really easy to use. I love the digital display that it has. It comes with a couple of different cords here. You can see your charging cable, a couple of different adapters if you want to blow up a basketball or a football. And if the battery dies, you can even plug it into your car. But you can see how nice this digital display is. You've got different modes here. You go from car, that's your ATV mode. Right here, you've got bike mode, and you can also switch it over to ball mode. Super easy to use. So when I'm done with my night at the track and I want to take these monsters from 20 back to 32 PSI so I can drive home, all I have to do is preset it right here, turn it on, and off it goes. It's pretty quiet. It even has this handy dandy little light so I can see what I'm doing in the dark. It makes no sense to go out and buy a heavy, cumbersome compressor that you have to lug around when you can have something that's really lightweight, really easy to use, lots of power in this little joker, and it all comes complete in that one little bitty case. Why not just throw it in the trunk in the event of an emergency? It is really handy to have. I will go ahead and pin a comment in the comment section down below so you can find out where you can buy your LASFIT compressor, and on we go with the video. It is no secret that the Dodge Demon 170 is the baddest muscle car ever created, and Dodge really wanted to make a huge statement with this car. Only 3,300 produced, 3,000 for the US, 1,025 horsepower, and it is still the world's quickest factory production car on a prep surface at 0 to 60 1.66 seconds, which is just insane to think about for a 4,300 pound car. And we know this is a drag race inspired car, and it is fantastic in many different ways. However, recently there have been a lot of things coming out on this car, a lot of bad publicity, if you will. As many of you may be aware that watch my channel, this is my second engine in this car. There have been some other Demon 170s out there with issues, and I think it's kind of caused a lot of people to question if this car is really all that great. Now, when you compare it to my 2016 Charger Hellcat, that car was named excessive. That car was extremely quick, extremely consistent. It was reliable. I mean, that thing did so many things well, and it does make for an interesting comparison. I'm just over 500 miles on this brand new Demon 170 engine. I already changed the oil in the thing, and I'm still trying to strategically add some break-in miles to the car. So I figured, great opportunity to actually take the car out, illustrate just a couple of quick things. Now, for many of you guys, you have been following my channel for a really long time, and you remember the days where I had my Hellcat. That's how I started my channel, and why so many people used to tune in. I used to race that car a lot. So kind of give you guys a quick recap of really everything that car was. Obviously a 2016 Charger Hellcat. I bought it brand new, and then I did a bunch of fun things to it. Initially, I did just kind of a 285 upper pulley so I could kind of switch it back. Those were back in the days where you could actually switch your PCMs out, and the dealerships really didn't care a whole lot, or they just weren't the wiser, one of the two. Nowadays, you can't really do that. But I just didn't want to void my warranty back then. But once my warranty period was out, I kind of went with a pretty cool setup. I went with Pites' Bravo setup. Now, Pites is the tuner I used in Houston that did the work on my Hellcat, did a great job. We did a 275 upper pulley, 10% lower pulley. We went to E85, 1300cc injectors. So nothing really all that crazy with that car. It still had that 2.4 liter blower on it, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a red eye blower. And you know, we shored up the drivetrain a little bit. We had aftermarket axles. I actually broke an axle when I was in Houston and really low DA. So I ended up going with beefier axles on the car. I ended up going with a DSS drive shaft on the car, diff brace, stuff like that. A few aesthetic things, but the car was not a very crazy setup. And for those of you guys that used to watch all of my racing, like I said, that's kind of how I cut my teeth on YouTube, was doing a lot of racing with that car. I would really do well at a lot of different events, streetcar takeover types events, you know, the Hellcat shootout in Sealy. I mean, I would typically finish top 1 or top 2 in a lot of these events, so the car really did get a reputation. A lot of you guys knew the car. Some people got to see it in person. They got to hear the Magnaflow exhaust on the back of that thing, and it was really loud in person. So many compliments on that car, and the car just worked. It wasn't anything super crazy. I didn't really overspin the blower. A lot of guys go 265 or 255 upper pulley. They end up creating too much heat. I just had a setup on that car that worked extremely well, and it performed well, and it would beat a lot of cars that it wasn't supposed to. It would beat a lot of race cars at events, and it would really drive people crazy getting put on the trailer by a 4-door sedan. And I would just foot brake it. I had a ton of success with that car, so much fun, and it's just such a different animal than the Demon 170. So here's the thing, we're running 8th mile today. You said you want to run me 8th mile. Pro Tree, heads up. It should be fun. Happy before this race with Donkmaster, which is going to go down here in a little bit. So really, I am the underdog in that. I have to admit, it's going to be a really tough order. I mean, that thing is pushing huge power. You heard him, 30 pounds of boost. He's pushing through that thing.
Let's see. 1,000 horsepower Hellcat in the right lane.
Too soon, Junior.
One of the great things about a Demon 170 is the fact it comes right off the production floor, and it is absolutely a missile. You don't have to do anything to this car to make it fast. Now, the 2016 Charger Hellcat, while it still made 707 horsepower, it wasn't just mind-numbingly fast, especially when you compare it to some of the other cars that are out there today, right? I mean, you're talking about 8 model years ago. It's amazing how long the Hellcat has actually been out now, since 2015, right? So we're going on 9 model years we've had the Hellcat out there. And that car was basically like a low 11-second car from the factory. That's what those cars did. And back in that era, you know, that was really fast. Anymore, it doesn't really get anybody going, right? So when I added the 285 upper pulley only and went to race gas, that car was running like in the mid-10s. Like, I think my best ever was like a 1045 at maybe 133, 134, something like that. Now, when I jumped up to the Bravo package, the 275 upper, 10% lower, E85, all that good stuff, things changed just a little bit, and I would consistently run in the 140 to 141 range in that car. I would consistently run like 9.7, 9.8 at a lot of my events. I would do streetcar takeover. I would enter the 10-0 class, and I would get out to the end and brake just enough to beat the guy beside me, and I got pretty good at it. And the car just, I mean, it was still really fast. I mean, you're talking about a 4-door sedan that would consistently run 9.7, 9.8. You know, in bad DA, it would still get well into the 9s. This car running 8.90. Now, I haven't even sniffed that, but I will say my very best time ever in the Charger Hellcat was a 1046, I believe, at like 146 mile an hour and some change. Really fast. That was a 13960 foot, a 944 at 146.16. The car was absolutely rolling. I could not be happier. I'm super stoked. Once again, I do believe I think that's the Hellcat record for the Bravo package, 275 upper, 10% lower. We're talking a stock motor, stock engine, stock transmission, stock blower. It's basically just pulling in a tune on E85, and the car went a 944. I drove it from Dallas to Houston. So believe it or not, my mile an hour in that car is faster than it is in my my Demon 170. However, I haven't had that much seat time in the Demon 170. I mean, my engine took a crap with 2,000 miles on it, and I only had maybe a handful of passes, maybe, I don't know, a dozen or so passes in the car. Now, my very first time ever out of the track when I was racing the Plaid, I beat my best ET that I ever had on my Charger Hellcat. I think I ran like a 938 at like 145 miles an hour. Never had this car faster than 145. Dodge says it'll do 151 mile an hour. But once again, that wasn't in very good DA when I ran the Charger Hellcat to what I consider to be a record for that car. I was in like negative 1600 DA down in Houston, mine shaft air. This car has never even sniffed air like that. So this car is the faster of the two cars. Now, is it the more streetable car? A standard Hellcat or even a wide body Hellcat, a red eye, they are street cars that do pretty darn well at the strip. Some will do better than others, and you can do things to actually make your car perform better at the strip. But it's a street car that does well at the strip. This car is a strip car that does okay on the street. And what I mean by that is it comes with these big old Mickey Thompson ET Street Rs, 17-inch, 315s on the back. They're great for the track, but if you get caught in the rain, you are absolutely hooped. I actually spun my Hellcat out with this exact tire setup back when I lived in Texas. I was only going 30 mile an hour and it was raining and the car just spun right around on me. If I get caught in the rain with this tire, I basically just have to pull over and wait for it to go away. Whereas the Hellcats, I mean, because they're made for the street, they're gonna come with street tires on them. You get caught in the rain, it's really not that big a deal. And even on my 1,000+ horsepower Hellcat, I ran a Nitto 555 R2s on the back of it, which actually do okay in the rain. Yes, they're not nearly as sticky as an ET Street R, but they were pretty good street tires. They were 20-inch wheels, and it just worked on that car for an everyday type street car, and then I would change it out at the track. You don't even get street tires and wheels with the Demon 170. And you see this big fender gap right there? It's great for transferring weight, but a lot of guys are struggling trying to find the right wheel and tire combo for the back of this because of that big fender gap. A lot of people think it looks really stupid with normal tires on it, normal wheels, and it does look a little bit different. It is a huge challenge for Demon 170 owners to try and find something in case they get caught out in the rain with the car. Something to consider. When you really think what the Charger Hellcat was able to accomplish in the time that it ran, it is really impressive when you compare it to this car, because the Demon really has all of the advantages. I mean, the car ran a 940 something at 146 mile an hour. I mean, that is essentially 2 mile an hour faster than I've ever had this car, and was less than a tenth slower. Even though it weighs 300 pounds more, it doesn't have the advantage of having a trans brake. It also doesn't build torque reserve in the supercharger. So this car is capable of getting into the 1.2s on the 60 foot. My best 60 foot in that car was like a 139. Like I said, being much heavier, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the weight doesn't transfer. It doesn't have the same suspension setup even close to it. It doesn't move air as well or efficiently. I mean, there are all sorts of disadvantages that that car had, yet it still performed like that. I do believe that when this car can see negative DA like that, it's really going to put down a monster number. But that's part of why I love that Charger Hellcat so much, because all of the advantages that this Demon has, all the way I can, the ways I can pull power out with the trans brake and all the other stuff this has working for it, has a better killer chiller, everything about it, that Charger Hellcat still held its own. 1,025 horsepower in that car, 1,025 horsepower in this one on E85. It's interesting. Now, I realize some of you may not even be aware of what torque reserve sounds like on either the 2018 Demon or this car, the Demon 170. Just take a quick listen. All you do is hold the brake with your left foot, go ahead and give it a little bit of RPM. Once you get to 1,400, hear it change, and then all you do is let off the brake and go, and it's building all that boost in the supercharger. Did it really light? I don't want to be too mean to the engine just yet, because engine's still breaking in. the Demon 170 really is a victim of its own success. And what I mean by that is the car is just so violent to launch. You have to have almost perfect track prep to be able to realize the benefit of all that torque reserve. I mean, 11 PSI building in the supercharger before you ever leave the line. That's actually 4 more than the 2018 Demon, and this supercharger is bigger, so it really shocks those tires hard. And yes, it does have Mickey Thompson AT Street R's on the back, which is actually a huge advantage over the 2018 Demon, and certainly what you would get over a Hellcat, but it doesn't seem to matter. You go out on a random test and tune night, you cannot stick this car at all. It just blows the tires off as soon as you get into torque reserve. Now, you can set it on a really soft trans brake, but the car tends to run pretty slow, and people seem to be kind of underwhelmed with that. If you're out there running 10.0, you know, at 143 mile an hour, nobody's really impressed with that when it comes to what the Demon 170 will do. And the car, to this point, at least for me and for a lot of other Demon 170 owners, has been just a little bit aggravating because it is inconsistent on anything less than a perfect track. It's mind-numbingly difficult to get it to just hook up and go. It is really, really tough. And I love the fact that it has a trans brake, but the Hellcat, that car was very consistent. Yes, it would still spin. I mean, it was still over 1,000 horsepower. It wasn't impervious to spinning, but the car was a lot more consistent. It didn't have any power coming right off the hit, so it didn't have torque reserve like this car has, and you could just foot brake it. I could stall it right up to about 1,900 RPM every time and just let it eat, and that car just seemed to work. I mean, it just dug in and it went. So from a consistency perspective, the Hellcat was just more consistent. Ultimately, the Demon 170 is the faster of the two cars. I've already out-ET'd my Charger Hellcat in this car on my very first time out, although it wasn't that much faster. So the difference isn't as big as one would think. But then again, we're talking about stock versus modded. Now, if I were to modify my Demon 170, we could easily get this car into the 8s. I'm very confident of that. And who knows, maybe someday I will actually do that. Truth be told, I'm really scared to modify this car, anything past putting the exhaust on it like I've already done. When I replaced my engine, that was $48,000 to replace this engine. And I don't know if I have a lot of confidence just yet that the same thing won't happen to this, because Stellantis has yet to get back to me to tell me what happened with my first engine. They knew everything I was doing in that car. Even when I dynoed it, when I raced it, I mean, I had a really detailed log. They knew all of it, and they were perfectly fine with everything I was doing in the car. And we had a very open line of communication on that, and that still happened. I'm glad they took care of me, put a new engine in, but I don't want to have to fit the bill if I modify it. You know, I do a different pulley setup on it, I tune it, all that good stuff. Chances are they will not warranty the engine if it happens again, and I don't want to be stuck with a $50,000 repair bill. So I am scared to modify this to a degree. That is a testament to like the Hellcats, because those engines, man, I won't want to say they're bulletproof, but man, are they hardy. And I mean, they stand up to 1,000+ horsepower like all day. A lot of times, even those 2.4 liter blowers, they are extremely efficient, and they can make a lot of power with the right pulley setup. I mean, like I said, you have a street car that makes well over 1,000 horsepower when it was engineered to make less. It's just a testament to the engineering of the Hellcat. So yeah, I mean, it's really hard comparing both. I mean, the Demon 170 is a much more rare car. I think in the minds of most people, it's a more special car. It has a lot more bells and whistles on it for drag racing, but if you want something like a street strip type car, the Hellcat was better. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. It had a higher top speed on it. This car, 149 mile an hour. It'll go a little bit faster if it's on the course of like a 1,320 foot drag race. We know Dodge backed this down because of the tires to 149 mile an hour. My Hellcat would go probably 210 or 15 or whatever it was. It would go really fast, much faster top speed than this car. Not that there's anywhere to go do that. I think that's another argument there. It's a whole nother ball of wax, but you just have to decide what you like. And you know, I love this car. I think it's fantastic on deceleration. It's really visceral. It's not quite as loud as my Hellcat was. It didn't have cats on it, my Hellcat. So it's just a little bit of a different driving experience. very Mopar when you drive it, just like the Charger. But I absolutely love my Hellcat. That's really the long story short. I just loved that car. It was so consistent, and it was just so good to drive. I drove it to and back from the track, never worried about rain because I would change the tires out while I was there. And the car just worked, and it did it over and over to the tune of many hundreds of passes. And the car just went out and did its thing each and every time. Yes, we refined the tune over time and we did other things to it, but nothing crazy in that car. And that is really cool about that car. This car, until I can get more passes on it and give you more information on it, and ultimately go much faster in it, the jury's kind of out. So anyway, guys, I just thought I would leave you with that. Just a fun little video kind of comparing the two cars. I can't say one or the other really is my favorite. My Hellcat really is one of my favorite cars that I have ever owned, and I have owned a lot. But it's hard to say the Demon isn't, because just the special factor of a Demon 170, I'm just listening to it, sounds so good. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Would you rather have the 1,025 horsepower Charger Hellcat that was just a winner and consistent and all of that good stuff, or would you rather have a Demon 170, most powerful production muscle car ever made? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.